Today, I'm going to talk to you about a psychological phenomenon that occurs to people whenever we talk about the name of Jesus Christ. Now, a lot of people are uncomfortable with the name of Jesus, not just believers, but non believers, and there's a reason for that. Peter Kreeft has written a book entitled Jesus Shock, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today, is this experience of angst and tension and anxiety and distress almost that comes over people at times when they're encountering Christ, the figure of Christ, even in a historical way. Now, Christ was a historical person. We have numerous texts about him. He actually existed and he actually died. So we know that he was real in that way as a figure. Now, like all figures in history that religions have been derived from, he's different. Buddha and Muhammad do not evoke a sense of tension or angst or worry. No tension gets evoked. But Christ is different because Christ said, "I'm God." No other person in the history of the world that has founded a religion has ever claimed that claim. And so, when he says that, just hearing the name, we're faced with the question that Christ himself raised. He said, "Who is it that you say that I am?" And we have to answer that question, or we get gridlocked and we have to reject that encroaching question in our mind. We have to escape to a place of intellectualism. We have to escape to a place of philosophical justifications. We have to leave that conversation unanswered, and that creates an ongoing tension for people. So if you do decide to answer the question, there really are three main answers to the person of Christ. Option one: Christ wasn't who he said he was. He wasn't God at all. Instead, he was a very malicious, maybe the most evil of all, con man. He wasn't just a nice person who said nice things, because he literally said he was God. And millions of people over the last 2,000 years, and to this day, are still dying to profess that he was God, and he is God. So for somebody to do that, to pull off that con, they'd have to be incredibly evil and incredibly ill-willed. And so Christ is just a con man, and the best one in all of human history, even convincing his followers to move his body and convince millions of people over the centuries to profess that he is God. So that's option one. Option two is that Christ was a lunatic, that he wasn't who he said he was either. He wasn't God. He was just a crazy person who, inspired people to follow him. And, remarkably so, people believed for whatever reason that he was, whatever, but he was just a lunatic. Very rare to find a psychotic individual with really huge delusions that's as meticulous and insightful and as wise as the teachings that you find with Christ. So that is argument two. Christ was a lunatic, a crazy person. Argument three then leaves us with he was exactly who he said he was. And if you engage in that in any way, shape, or form, that Christ was exactly who he said he was, well, now you're going down a rabbit hole. Now you're encountering something that creates an upheaval in an encounter with, well, if that was true, well, there's lots of other things that might be true too, and there's lots of other things that may have to change. And this creates that, like I said, this creates this shock, this tension, this avoidance, because Christ accepts us where we are, but he refuses to leave us unchanged. And so now we get taken in on something unexpected. And so please be mindful when people use the name of Christ that it evokes a sense of tension, and it evokes a sense of anxiety and worry and a desire and a reluctance almost to engage. This isn't like Buddha. This isn't like Muhammad. This is vastly different. So if you have the courage, who do you say that he is?